kind of lesson could be learned from looking at a girl who gets famous from saying racial slurs? Yeah. Look at me, I say racial slurs all the time and nobody gives me a dime. Oh yeah, how about my own show at the Daily Wire? Yeah, no, what you gonna do? Miss, you talk too much about Jews and you don't have them big old tears. But anyway, welcome to Ancient Wisdom. From that intro jam, you could probably tell that if you're sexy, you'll get big on the internet. All you have to do is say, and which got me to think, can you say on YouTube?
Yes, I use nigga. I've used it. I put the H on it to emphasize it's nigga.
Wow.
Nigga this, nigga please, nigga. You know, can you lend a nigga a pencil?
All right, guys, let's get into the show. Let's get deep. Let's get official with it. Put on your thinking caps. Put on your scheming caps. Because we're going to get there with today's ancient 7 Hermetic Principles. Yep, so people can take a look at that, read through it, and we're just going to kind of go through these. It's not as much as a game today, but really we could get into the depths of, do you guys agree with this? Have you felt anything in your own lives? And of course, comment at home. We'd like to know what you think. This would be a great show for like live chat. Get people's, because this gets really deep and very esoteric. The very first one is mentality. The first of the Hermetic Principles is that all is mind. Ooh. All is thought. And I guess I'll start off, like, is there any truth to this in your own life? You know, anything that people say manifesting, or like how people say the modern version would be like attitude is everything. Right?
I think they're missing a little bit with that mind over matter kind of thing. Because it is true. I feel like my mind affects my state of being way more than the external objects and people do.
Interesting.
It's my interpretation of them where it all goes wrong and chaos ensues.
Yeah, and I guess they'd say, like, what's the difference, right? The outside is the inside. All is mind is what they're saying. And you could take it any way you want, but like how you feel about a situation, maybe that is the situation in some deep way.
Yeah, probably that, you know, you could go through the same experience and how you handle it is mostly internal, mostly in your mind. You could probably take a good experience out of it from a scolding. You could say, "Oh, I'm not good enough." You could learn from it, or you could demoralize yourself.
And the whole thing about manifesting, I don't know if I ever really believed that. I know that's a big buzzword in like the women online communities. They say, I'm just going to manifest what I want and that kind of thing. But it doesn't really seem to work out that way.
So really think about it, guys. Break it down into a situation. You're driving in your car. First thing that comes to my mind, spitballing. Are you going to get angry at the driver next to you? What if you fail a test? How do you react to it? There's people that say, well, I'm going to try it better next time. I know what I did wrong. I know how to solve this now. And some people are just going to say, fuck, and go on forever.
Yeah, it's like
just failing. How you do anything is how you do everything.
They'll never leave the traffic.
Yeah, they'll never leave the traffic. Yo, that's so deep, Poach. First deep thing I heard all night. You'll never leave the traffic. Literally, the mind is mental. You're always in the traffic. You're stuck there. You're trapped there because it is the mind. It is trapping you. And in some way, again, like these aren't principles. I don't think these are, the Hermetic Principles are physical rules of nature, but I think they are deeper ways to look at things. Much like, you know, some might see all religions, the philosopher. How you want to look at it can explain a lot about why we do things. That's why we meditate. Because the more you do something, the more you are something. How about that? Right? The more you cultivate peacefulness, presence in your mind, the more you'll be peaceful later. Because what else is going to change? Nothing. And if you believe in time not even existing, it's the forever moment anyway.
That's why it screams out to me that the mind is just holding you back, kind of thing. What Poge said about being upset about things you can't control.
Or the idea of the mind.
Yeah, and you're totally being led by the mind when you're getting mad at things that you can't control.
Right.
And are you not mad in your mind in that traffic because the mind is in the traffic physically?
Yeah. See, Poe, I think Poe just starting to get it here. Now we're getting it. I think we're struggling here, but Poe just kind of getting it. The mind is everything.
And I guess you could go even further to say, I am the mind. Like your
Right.
mind is I. And in your reality, if we're really honest with ourselves, I think I is everything.
Yeah.
Because
so
I
that
don't,
guy you're getting mad at is in your mind. That guy you're getting mad at.
Oh, now we're talking. Poe is on fire tonight. All right, we're finally. I know it's hard. This is all deep stuff. You really got to put yourself there, but that's what it is. Does that guy even exist?
He doesn't have
Or is
to.
he just a thought in your mind? Is it all mind?
He doesn't
Everything.
have to be someone that's
Not
making
just
you
some
angry.
things.
He doesn't have to be someone that's making you angry. He could just be a guy in the car next to you.
Yes.
He doesn't have to be a guy in the car that's
Oh,
pissing you
that's
off.
deep. The thought of it. So let's move on to the second Hermetic principle. You guys might have heard this one. As above, so below. Oh, have you heard this one?
I have.
Right? Have you guys ever really put some thought into that? What do you think that means?
This one.
You hear it all the time. Personally, I've heard it a million times. I says,
Turtles.
what is this?
Turtles all the way down.
Yeah, right? Was that the Native American lore?
I believe it's. I want to say it's Hindu, but it's kind of saying that you're standing on the world, which is growing on the back of a turtle.
Yeah.
And then you ask the guru, well, what is the turtle standing on? He says it's turtles all the way
turtle,
down.
baby.
It's turtles all the way down.
You can ask me as many times as you want. I'm still going to say a turtle. So I thought that the Christians really didn't like it because there is no endless turtles, they say. I read in the Bible that God created the earth, and now we're here. There's no infinite turtles. God made the earth 5,000 years ago, and now we're here. And also, here's a fun one to stimulate the imagination if you guys have nothing else. What about God? This is why the Christians should like it. God made man in his own image. You think about stuff like this? This gotta spark some deep thought.
Above and below.
This has gotta inspire some deep thought. And it's
From
cool
above.
because it almost ties into the first one. We'll see if it ends up being a pattern. But if all is thought, if all is mind, the mind seems to be the only thing that has this limitless nature besides the universe itself. Oh, as above, so below. I think this is also why the Christians seem to think that like Hinduism, Buddhism is kind of satanic too, because they tend to say, we are God. But I really wish people could understand that the turtles, a million turtles, we're just using different language here to describe very similar principles. We all feel the same thing. We're all humans, but we just get so angry, even warlike, because we use different words to say it.
And
Do you agree?
There's another word that I think if you were to say that, like proclaim, I am God.
Yeah, I
if you
am
were,
God. What does that mean, though? You think you're Jesus? No,
Right.
Jesus is my God.
And if you were a Hindu or whatever saying something like that to an American, their first reaction would probably just be, oh, he's so conceited.
Burn him at the stake.
Exactly,
really,
but-
throughout history.
But that's
now let's say conceited.
That's because they're interpreting that as like they really see themselves as the master of everything, when that's
Yeah.
not really what they're saying at all.
Right, exactly. If as above, so below, then why wouldn't the universe, to hippies, or God to everybody else, be the self on a different scale?
Or
Because
plane.
as above, so below, we're setting a scale, are we not? There's an above and below.
Ah.
So that's set in stone, right? You guys vibe with that?
Yep. Mhm.
It's saying, by definition, there's an above and below, but as above, so below. Is there any difference? Can I say that the ant isn't a god? Because
Wow.
the as above, so below is the mind. All is mind. We're creating it. We're using words to create the realms. But really, the ant is no different than the human. We are, and that is the truest form of God, I think. The all. I was watching this interview with one of the main dudes with psychedelics. And he was talking about, he was kind of like a real OG. They're like, what'd you learn from psychedelics? And he's like, I can't tell you. Basically saying, like, you wouldn't understand, or if I told you what I saw, it would start a cult, because you would misinterpret what I was going to say. And it
Right.
seems to happen every single time. Even electric Kool-Aid acid test, Timothy Leary, all that stuff. He says when he was young and naive, he said, "Oh my God, acid could save the world. If I could just find some way to put it in the water supply, we'd be saved." And it turns out, how naive could you be? Because if you take what Terrence says seriously, which I tend to believe, psychedelics don't work on stupid people, and that's just the fact.
I didn't even know he wanted to put it in the tap water.
That was his big plan.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and I think it's the facts, right? If you hear these things, you create a thought about them. Do you not?
Right.
Oh, I'm telling you about a vision. The best vision around, Book of Revelation. Have you read it? Have you guys read it? It's the craziest trip you've ever been on. Reminiscent of too much mushrooms. But then you realize, like, this guy is saying too much. He's giving away the secret. But then I start creating a religion about Jesus, the judge, coming back and executing judgment on the world.
It's almost.
But that was just his vision.
It's making me think that perhaps when Moses came down from the mountain, his vision was akin to some type of psychedelic experience, and
that too,
he couldn't bring it into a human form. He had to dumb it down to 10 rules,
Yeah.
because he didn't know how else to transfer the
Deep.
knowledge.
That's
he's
a
like,
sick one.
Well, they have 10 fingers. I'll make 10 rules. They won't forget, like
kind of vibes with them.
he really had
like
to.
this.
He really had to stamp it in them some other way.
Whoa.
Yes, and that is the art of a master, and that's why Moses was the OG. He's the only one in the Bible to ever see God. Did you guys know that? In any form, he was the only one to actually see God himself through his fingers, kind of like the back of God, but he saw him. But that's the art of the true artist, the true guru, the true man who has gone on the great journey, cut off the head of the dragon, and brought it back as proof. Because most people can't see it. They see the dragon and they run away. And they're like, "Oh my God," they're telling the boys, "It was crazy. You would never believe it." And they're like, "You didn't see no dragon. Where's the proof?"
Right, and I like your point about as soon as something is said about the truth to somebody,
Yeah.
it's penetrating their mind.
It's
and
in the mind already.
Yeah, and it's created some insane reality.
Already missed the point.
Already
Some insane
bastardized.
reality. I'm going to start a cult. I think that's how all the religions probably started.
Yep.
Some dude had a great revelation and it was bastardized. I tend to think this was a recent revelation of mine as well, that I was talking to my mom and I says, "Mom, don't you get it? Like, we talk about the Romans. But do you know who the Romans were? I bet it was 6 dudes. I bet it was 6 guys tops. Dope engineers, dope thinkers, guys who can structure military, who can build things, and everybody else just followed the plans. Everyone else was a good worker. It wasn't, the Romans said this. Oh, the Romans had this idea. No, the Romans didn't have the idea. A guy had it. One guy had the idea.
Yeah,
and then
philosopher
people just
kings.
bought into it.
Philosopher kings.
Yeah, even back to Socrates, man, and the Greeks, like same thing. There was one dude like, in a million years, talk about the Americans. No, it was George Washington.
That's
He's
true.
the one, like Moses, who turned down the kingship.
Whoa.
Because Moses didn't want to become like the Pharaoh. As George Washington, they were begging him to become king. He said, "No, I can't do that. I can't become what I hate and what I fought against.
That's deep, man, because
As above, so below."
even the word Romans, like you said, you have an idea of what Romans were.
Yeah, Romans.
But you're right, it probably
It was the Romans who
had-
thought of that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it wasn't
a
the
group
Romans.
thought of this idea. The next Hermetic principle is everything is in motion. Now, you guys might like this one because it's a little more sciencey. You could see it from a sciencey perspective, right? Everything's in motion. We now know, but they knew this before all the science, where they looked with the microscope or whatever, did the calculations, and they saw even the hard table is vibrating atoms.
If you told me this in ancient times, I would argue you that
Yeah.
that the rocks don't move.
I swear to God, I'm
Yeah.
looking at rocks and I'm like, you think this is moving? I feel the same way. My mind has been a little contaminated, right? How did they know this before one of the earliest cults on record that we know of?
The rock had to get there somehow. It had to move at one point.
That's deep point.
Maybe still might be moving.
Yeah.
At a very slow pace.
You know, I think maybe I think it's like Empedocles, the guy that did Earth, Wind, Air, and Fire. That was probably like one of the first philosophers that said, stuff comes from four things. Like there are elements that make everything up.
Yeah.
Everything is a little earth, air, a little fire, a little water, and all those things are in motion. Those things always move. Those elements don't stop moving.
With combinations of those things, we make other things.
Exactly.
Maybe man is the combination of all four of those things.
And I heard this some ancient guy say that the less the less something change, the more lifeless it tends to be.
The less. Oh, interesting. Wow. If you love it, let it go. Because it is moving. The flower blooms and then it dies. What are you going to do? What are you going to save it forever? Some people kill insects and put them in the little book. But even that, it goes away. You're just buying yourself some time. Everything changes.
You can't hold on to it. Wow.
And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
If you resist that, man, it's all part of mentalism.
Yeah, right. So this is cool because it kind of does go back as above, so below. I like what Evan said. It's like, the rock had to get there unless, poof, it's just there one day. And I imagine people have thought that throughout history too. But like, how'd this rock get here?
Might have come from a bigger rock.
It's hard. Oh, yeah, the bigger rock. Then you think endless turtles every time. Where did the bigger rock come from? Where did that rock come from? A huge rock?
Even bigger rock.
Is the biggest rock the planet? Where did the planet come from? You start freaking yourself out.
The planet's a rock of some other rock.
Oh my God! And there's a big sun in the sky. What does that have to do with this? And the mystery goes on. And in my trippiness, I tend to see things like as a vortex, right? The cyclone is the best way to visualize this stuff. Or even Watts talks about the whirlpool. Like the whirlpool is never the same whirlpool, but we call it a whirlpool. It is 5 minutes ago as it is now. We say it's a whirlpool, it's a vortex.
Yep.
But that's how my mind sees things too. It's moving. What is moving, and why do I call it the same thing, even though the nature of what I am labeling is change, the Tao?
Yeah, and the whirlpool can change spots of where the vortex has happened. It's different water.
Always different water,
Yep.
always fresh.
Yep.
And it goes fast too. And I think everything's really going hyper fast, but we kind of pretend it's not. Or like even rocks, they're shaking a lot. Their life, as above, so below, the time frame that it comes from is really all relative, how you see it. The above and below, as described, is the worldly nature, but they are the same on the godly plane. I'm sticking with that. I created that tonight. That's deep. As above, so below is the worldly plane because I must separate them. But really, they're the same from the godly plane.
Yeah, and I love that point about the vortex, why we call it a singular noun when it's a process. It's not an object.
Process.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It is moving, but we give it a noun.
Right.
So that we can make sense of a certain experience that we feel.
And is the rock not also a process?
Yeah.
In a larger scale.
A vortex on its own scale, yeah. As
A
above,
longer
so
scale
below.
of time.
Man, that's deep. Any last ones? We can move on to number 4,
Let's do it.
which is polarity. Bring that up, Poj. What do you guys? Can you read that?
All things are dual. All opposites are reconciled.
Ooh, as above, so below, it sounds like to me.
Right, similar. How would you guys break this down? Polarity, what do you think? Magnets, coins, let's start simple. Let's expand, right? Why do magnets work? Oh, my favorite Richard Feynman that Poj showed me years ago. Magnets. If you guys haven't seen it, you gotta check it out. The reporters interviewing Richard Feynman. And he goes, you're a smart guy. You worked on the nuclear project. How do magnets work? And he says, what do you mean? You're a scientist. Explain to people who don't understand, how magnets work. And he goes, what the hell are you talking about? More or less. It's like that question doesn't... And the reporter starts to get upset. He's like, I'm asking a simple question.
What do you mean?
What? Answer magnets. And he's like, what do you mean? What are magnets? No, he was being cool about it. But like, it's one of the deepest things I've ever seen if you have the depth to even look at it. Because what's happening right there is a koan, a huge misunderstanding of the mind. Because what he's saying is that if I could understand magnets and explain them to you, I'd have to explain the universe to you.
Right. What is it but yet another process?
It's a process
Magnets
of the universe.
attracting to each other.
I might as well explain to you what consciousness is.
Right. Or,
It's something that happens on Earth that is responsible for so many things. I might as well explain to you what God is.
or why man and woman exists.
Yeah. Why, man? Polarity. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
Did he not go on
Perfect.
to essentially go and explain pretty much everything about physics so that he could actually
yeah, more or
answer?
less. He
It took
kinda-
like a 20-minute answer to actually get, and then he's like, okay, now we're finally at magnets.
Yeah.
Still following me?
You follow me so far?
Now
Like,
we
I
could
lost
talk
it.
about
He started
magnets.
to regret asking the question. He's like, oh, all right, fine. I was hoping you could explain it in 2 seconds, but yeah, what are magnets? I thought that was the deepest thing because it's deeper than you know. It's like a religious question. Why is anything?
All things.
I think he even said that. Why is anything? Why is magnets? What?
Yeah, all things are dual natured, and again, a favorite thing that you said years ago still sticks with me is everything has to exist because nothingness is too unstable of a concept to exist.
I like that a lot. And much like as above, so below, like you said, isn't that the polarity? That's the polarity brought to human realm. When maybe it's the same, but to experience it, it splits. For me to even talk about it, for me to see it, all of a sudden, there's a reality. Two hemispheres, consciousness splits the fabric of reality so that we can see anything at all.
Whoa.
Isn't that pretty deep? I think that's real.
The fact that we're thinking about thinking about what magnets are or
Yeah.
anything is splitting reality
Splitting
itself.
That's super deep.
That is.
I
yeah.
kind of just came up with that now, but I think that's a beautiful way to see philosophical thought, these sort of deeper questions, is that when you're creating words, you create the polarity. That's what words do. There's a yes and a no. When really, the mind is just ripping it apart. When meditation brings it together again, where there is no yes and no, the non-dual sort of thought. The fifth principle, rhythm. It's the waves. I kind of think these are building on each other. I kind of think there's a purpose to the order. This is feeling very interesting. So rhythm, what does it say there, Posh?
It says rhythm, the ebb and flow
The ebb and flow.
pervade the all.
Oh.
I-
First impressions?
I got to think again about music since we're talking about
Evan says
rhythm,
music, rhythm.
because one single note is not rhythm
Yep.
or a song. It's just a sound.
Hmm.
But when you have two or more things, that's when it becomes a rhythm. When you have a relationship,
Hmm.
another process going on.
Now that's a tough one, right? Because I'd have to push back a little bit there and say, what is one note? I think one note could be a melody, and I think the rhythm is already there in the sine wave itself. I think we need rhythm. The ebb and flow of all. There couldn't be one note in the way you describe it. And you know what you're describing is the single point hypothesis. There's no such thing as a point. Do you guys know this? Poach could explain it better than myself. But point, there's no point. A point is an imaginary thing. It'd have to be infinitely small to be a point. Am I right?
Oh,
And
You need a line,
asymptotes.
but if you have 2 points, you have a line. A line between two hypothetical points. There is no beginning and no end.
that's
Have you
where
seen that
reality is. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I see now.
You think point. Oh, you think it's a little circle drawn on a page on your line graph.
You'd have to get smaller
But
and
that
smaller
doesn't
and smaller.
exist.
Right.
But if it's a point, you'd have to go infinitely deep. Asymptote, like Poach said.
You know, with this rhythm idea,
Yeah.
again, we keep coming back to none of these other ones can work without this one. It's like they all are trying to, like I said, the last one brought me to the point where they're all trying to wake up. This one, it's like
Wake
you
up.
can't even wake up if there's no beat, if there's no time. You can't vibrate. It's like as we further get lower, we're getting into more important ones, I feel like.
Oh, that's deep. You think we're honing in on it a little bit too?
We're getting into something that's kind of the bottom of
The eternal truth. We're getting to the bottom of it.
the bottom spring. I don't know what to call it.
Okay, let's see if we got a spring at the end. But what do you guys think about rhythm? What else comes to mind when you hear rhythm? Start simple, start basic. We're gonna get deep. You got to make that first shovel load.
The downbeat.
The downbeat. All right, Evan already said music. Yes.
Maybe a pattern.
Pattern.
Rhythm is a pattern.
What other patterns do you see around you? Let me hit you with a big one. What's the biggest one? It's an astronomical one. It's called the moon, baby. It's called the cycles of the moon. Why
that
do the
rhythm.
tides go in and out? The tides.
The ebb and
Why are there
flow.
28-day moon cycles? And why is it that women and, they say men, certain hormonal cycles are based off that? Do we need a moon? Are moons as important as I think they are?
I think, Mitch, you probably hit it right there.
Boom.
We cannot have life without maybe a moon
cycles.
cycle. Maybe you need the cycles for it to even start.
I tend to
The
think
in and
so.
out. And it has to be a good combo of the cycles, the right frequencies
Yes.
aligning. They have to actually be in rhythm. They have to be playing a song of life.
Oh, there it is. All of it's rhythm, but really all it is a song if it's working out correctly.
If they're out of rhythm, sure, you'll have the rhythm, but is it going to be life? Is it going to be a song?
I tend to believe that, like, if you have a planet just floating there, it kind of needs the moon. Because otherwise it's stagnant. There's no life. So this is all intrinsic to the nature of life, too, these Hermetic principles.
Yeah, I just feel that if we didn't need a moon, it wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
That's my base perception
that's usually
of
a good principle to take in.
I couldn't tell you
There for a
exactly
reason.
what the rhythm and the vibrations and the mentality of that, what that means.
Yeah.
But I know that if the moon would start going in the other direction around us, there might be a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
Because it's
And
not
it's weird
doing
how
that.
it's like facing us all the time. That's suspicious. Speaking of suspicious, weird stuff going on out here. I don't know if it's real. Comment. Is
There's
the moon real?
There's one about the eclipse.
Eclipse.
That life only exists on planets that are capable of having perfect eclipses.
Oh my God.
Interesting,
What another
right?
pattern.
Boom. And there, I like that a lot because it's kind of what Evan said too about like, oh, if it's how it is, it kind of might have to be that way.
It must be
because
that way.
especially because we're so rare, we don't see life around us in the solar system, in the galaxy.
Wow.
But that's always hyper suspicious.
It's like
Speaking
you
of
have
suspicious,
it finely tuned to the right.
Yeah.
All the synthesizer knobs are in the perfect place.
dead
to make-
exact,
Yeah, yeah.
And it-
with a fraction of a percent, if anything.
And I love that Poj brought up eclipses because I would have never thought of that because it seems to be more of a rare pattern to have an eclipse as opposed to the moon going around us every day.
Yeah.
But an eclipse, the time between eclipses, much like 2 points in a graph,
Oh, yeah.
they still form some kind of reality there.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh man, that's cool. And yet again, as above, so below. You create the points, and maybe the points don't exist, but the line seems to exist
Right.
from our perspective.
Because an eclipse, you can't only have one eclipse, it seems.
Oh, it seems. Yeah, that's really
Be-
cool.
And that's why I think those ancient civilizations really tricked their people to make them believe that they're God because they could predict patterns better.
Oh yeah, Evan's ancient eclipse theories. Ha! Conspiracy theorist. But what else happens in cycles, you guys think? Cycle. I'm gonna use. Oh, I already gave it away. Oh, I said cycles, but use different words. Rhythm. What else does this kind of mean? Why is it that drums sort of are a way of inducing meditation? How about that? Is that a good talk? Is that a good talking point?
We ourselves internally have a rhythm. Our thoughts are rhythmic. Our heart is rhythmic. Our body works in rhythms.
Yeah, there's
You
all
do
these
reps
ways to
when
induce.
you work out.
Yeah, you do reps. That's a rhythm, baby.
It has to be.
Getting
It has
big.
to be. I'll be a count. There's a cycle to it.
I
You
think
can't
it-
do one. You can't do one really hard and put it down.
Yeah, once you pop, the fun don't stop, yo. Pringles. Peanuts,
Yeah.
you can't have just one.
Yeah, I think it's meditative, a sound of a drum or a gong, because
Yeah.
without your interpretation of it, it wouldn't exist. It's another thing that's dual. It's
Yeah.
related in duality kind of thing because it brings you back. Your relationship with the sound in your ears, it centers you to now.
Yeah, that is really cool.
You can't
It
even
is
walk
bringing
without a
you in.
rhythm.
There it is. And I like that a lot, Poach. Take it to the next level. I say, what I hear you saying is, and I would have to agree if this is what I actually hear you saying, is that it's a rhythm and we are a rhythm. Put the rhythms together, you got a hot beat.
This song keeps getting more tracks.
Yeah.
more layers.
Oh,
Wow.
got an album on our hands, baby. Woo! And of course, just a simple one to finish it off. If you guys don't have any others, is the rhythm of emotion. very necessary, right? Like, I have heard stories of these people with photographic memories, and they live in pain. You know, you think it'd be so cool. Oh, I'd learn languages like this. I'd learn instruments, all these type of facts to impress people. But also, when you were 3 years old and somebody pushed you on the swings, that you feel it as just as powerful now as you did then. All the bad things you remember as well. So we tend to have these cycles of emotion. Why is it that the thing that bothered you last week doesn't bother you now, right? You ever think about that? It's very powerful. I'll say that much. Like, you could be feeling like you're dying right now, but next week you're like, it doesn't even matter.
I want to say memory, but I think what you're leaning towards is just, man. So I don't want to say memory. It's almost like I want to say you're just mood. Maybe your mood is a rhythm.
Mood,
but
yeah.
I want to say you can control that. I like saying that it's an uncontrollable rhythm. You got to let it play. You have to go through every measure and be angry, mad.
Certainly, but I'm saying, yeah. Well, if you're never stuck in anger, you're never stuck
move
in
on.
happiness.
It
will
okay.
move. All things come to an end.
I suppose I should accept the fact that there will be a recurring bad feeling.
Absolutely. I see what you're saying, though. You know, there is ways to deal with things, certain fortitudes, certain practices, certain meditations, but there will be bad times. I think that's the truth.
There's going to be a
life.
bridge. Bridge is coming. But there'll be a
Absolutely.
chorus.
It seems
Yep.
it seems to all come back to the mind. And speaking of bridges, I feel like when we recall a past memory of us,
Yep.
of what happened to us, we are creating a bridge to it, another line to another point. And in doing so, we're making that a reality with our mind instead of, again, withdrawing back to the oneness of now with the drum. But we're weaving a tether to a spot in time that doesn't really exist by itself. But when we're connecting those lines between now and then, that's when it does exist.
You know what's really deep about what you said, too, is they say that mushrooms increase neuroplasticity, neuroconnectivity. So what is a memory if not a point? What do we call that? A neuron. When we connect to another point, it strengthens the neural connection that actually happens. As above, so below, fellas. It
Man.
actually happens in our brain, and we wouldn't have known this 10,000 years ago. But why is it that the exact way we visualize it is the way it physically is in our heads? We strengthen our neural pathways as we repeat them, as the cycles continue.
Mentalism.
Whoa.
Mentalism, boom. Also mentalism too. They're harder to break, which is also mentalism. Yeah, what you are is what you are. How you do anything is how you do everything. You're strengthening those neural pathways. And I think that's super deep. Even as Evan described it, he didn't even know what he was saying. But a memory, it's a point. It doesn't exist. He said that. It is a point. A neuron is a point. We could say it exists because as above, so below, it is existent in our earthly realm. And once you make that connection, the connection becomes real. It has become something that exists and actually can become strengthened. But what it's even connecting to doesn't necessarily exist. But the two together create progression, a reality for you to experience. The ripping apart.
And this might be a reach, but we've established that a point doesn't exist, which makes sense to me.
By definition.
But I feel like if our point is always right here and right now, that point becomes a process, and if you stay on that point, it's
cool.
always more peace because it's
That's
not
fun terminology.
tethered to something.
Yeah. Ooh, there's also some that's kind of deep. That's fun terminology. Now let's get visual with it, right? So we got 2 points, but what happens when you bring the magnetic poles closer and closer? They either repel or they suck in, right?
Yep.
Kind of feel like this little. But what if in an alternate dimension, looking at it from this way, it becomes the vortex. It
Right.
becomes the cycle of play.
The ebb and flow
The polarity,
again.
the masculine, feminine, the ebb and flow. So that's super deep, right? They become closer, but they can never actually touch, probably unless you're dead. You know, unless you're with oneness, deep in meditation, whatever it is. But we can become close as we can to the moment. Therefore, the sporadicism is minimalized. More present you are, the more peaceful you become.
Ooh, do the vibrations? The vibrations, the polarities. Do they calm down? Does all the mentalism calm down?
Yeah, what do you guys
This
think?
entire
That
stack.
seems real to me.
I think there's a foundation and a column being built here of
Yeah.
these Hermetic principles.
Oh, it feels that way. Oh, and we're moving on to the next one, which is number 6, cause and effect. Can you read that, Poach?
Everything happens according to law, karma and dharma.
Damn, now you guys familiar with karma and dharma? It's pretty deep.
I know karma. Let's get dharma explained here.
Dharma, so it's never able to be perfectly explained, but karma is what happens, but dharma is translated as the doing a lot of the times. And it's simple but heady at the same time. You do what you do because you do it. Or you do what you do because of the karma. That could be in this life, the past life. And there's really no escaping those things. It's almost as if we're saying how you do anything is how you do everything. It's very similar, but from a different perspective, I believe. You are going to cause and effect. You are going to reap what you have done. But I think people tend to think of it where they go wrong is that they think of it as this conscious law. I better do good things so that good things will happen to me. But I think they're still missing the point a little bit. That it's just doing, it's just the action, right? All is thought. We're connected to it in a deeper way.
Karma, I feel like, is the effect of the dharma. Is it not? Because they put this first.
Maybe like the lens, I would see it as.
Everybody
like,
talks about the karma, like you do bad things will happen to you.
Right.
There's a balance in the universe existing, but maybe it's the action you take that sets the karmas into motion.
Yeah, right. I tend to see it as like a lens in that sense, but I like that too, yeah.
The problem seems to be, again, in our interpretation of cause and effect. I don't really know how to see it any other way besides how you just explained it, which is like they both have to exist, and you do what you do
Because you do
because you do it.
Yeah.
And there really is no rhyme or reason to that.
Right.
Because it's always talking about right now, but our mind wants to split now into, well, this happened because of that 5 minutes ago.
Deep. There it is, Evan.
Right.
It's less of a thought, but it's more of a meditation itself. I do what I do because I do it. You do it. And it sounds a little predeterminist. That's why people could tend to think that sometimes. And again, I have gone back and forth my whole life. Are we free will? Or are we predeterminist? And it turns out yet again, oh my God, you're talking nonsense. Right? Do you ever
Yeah, I
feel
guess
that?
so.
You're talking out of your ass. Huge debates, scholarly articles. Do we have free will? God, oh my God. You're talking out of your ass. It's not real. We have predeterministic free will. We feel as though we do when we're real, when we separate the as above, so below. But we don't when we're together in the godly realm. There is no free will.
Yeah,
we feel as if we do. The question makes no sense.
I was thinking about washing dishes today.
Yep.
And I could get into my head and say, like, I got to do all these dishes, you know, if I had only cleaned them earlier.
Oh yeah.
But then again, you're still going to be cleaning them, but maybe just in shorter segments of time because you clean as you go. But the longer you wait, you're just putting a longer line in between those 2 points of eating and cleaning.
Yeah.
You're going to do it anyways, but you think that I don't know. It's coming out of the present moment again. It's like, what, are you not going to clean the dishes that are dirty? You're just going to throw them away?
And of course, I always like thinking of doing the dishes as our Lao Tzu, like we expressed last week. Do nothing, and nothing remains undone. Right? If you're in your head about it, it becomes a task. You can complain about it. It becomes something. You are literally make all is mind. It goes back to the First Amendment, you know, all based on one. You are creating it, and as above, so below. It's kind of funny. The Second Amendment is like it splits into two, and then it continues out. I hypothesize. I seriously didn't put this much thought into it, but I kind of hypothesized that these would kind of follow a flow, and they kind of seem to be at this point. But I like where Evan is going, because one of my old favorite ones is asking the question, who do I blame?
My parents.
Yeah, boom, there it is. Why am I
They did
suffering
this
right
shit.
now? Because my stupid fucking parents had to fuck and fuck me, basically. So why did they do that? Okay, so I'm gonna blame pornography. No, I don't know. I'm gonna blame my grandparents, or I'm gonna blame my dad's sexual desires. But then, then we're making a choice. Am I blaming my mom or am I blaming my dad? The one came from the two. Am I going to go farther and blame my grandparents? Am I going to go farther and blame the Western world? Where does the buck stop?
You're gonna blame God if you keep going.
That's right. You're going to end up blaming God. And you know what? I think that's where religions come from as well, because it's the backstop. And people like the backstop. Would you guys agree? It stops somewhere, because I don't think the Western mind is very comfortable with the Hindu turtles all the way down. The Western mind wants to hit a wall and say, hey, I got it. I got the answer. Here it is. I'm good. So they make this word called faith. And I just believe it because I believe it. I don't got to explain it. I couldn't explain it anyway. And that certainly helps a lot of people, especially if it's like faith in a good religion.
Right. Maybe it's easy and comfortable to just shift the blame all the way back to the serpent in the garden or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I hate to make generalizations, but I think Christianity, when done properly, maybe all religions, if it's not like a cult, it can be done properly. You know, Ramakrishna said you could get enlightenment from following really any modern religion. He studied them all. And if you do it properly, and if you have like true faith about it, but I feel like we don't have true faith. We have fear, therefore we adopt faith. But this cause and effect principle, we could go all the way back, we could go turtles all the way down, and we keep creating reality. We keep thinking and splitting our reality. We keep separating ourselves from the moment, separating ourselves from God. Or you could hit the wall and say, fuck God, and become an atheist. Because in our Western mind, we hit the wall. I think it's very predominant with the Western mind that we just hit the wall every time. And we end up saying, fuck God, because he made me this way. I know I suffer. Take Buddhism, and I think you don't need Buddhism to find out that you suffer, to find out that you're living in pain, especially as you get older. If you're not now, you will. And if it's not now, maybe it's something different, like psychological, emotional pain. So you want to hit the wall and you want to blame. But what is it? What is this cause and effect, this sixth Hermetic principle? What do you guys take in that context?
There's always going to be it's almost like telling you that there always will be a source. There always will be a cause.
That's a cool, yep.
That you have to accept it. Breaking it down. You want to just say that maybe, I exist purely, if we're going to go, the universe came and was awoken. It woke up.
Right. God made the earth in 7 days.
It starts questioning the cause once it has an effect. You're not going to even think about how did I get here if you're not already in existence. If you look for the answer, I think is what I'm trying to say. If you look for the answer, you will have to find a cause. You will force yourself to find
that's
a
cool.
cause.
I like that.
If you're searching
The
for an
duality
answer,
of it
you
all.
have to have a cause. Like you just,
Nice.
That's what you're looking for.
I like that, instead of maybe just letting it go, right?
Instead of letting it go and just saying, this is it, this is what it is. But because you are here and because you feel you're here,
I like that.
you know that you are the effect and you're trying to find that cause.
And until you let it go, maybe blame comes from that suffering that's inherent, as Buddhism taught.
Oh, yep.
So I think as long
Cause
as there's
and effect?
yeah,
Oh.
as long as there's suffering, there's going to be blame until you kind of
Oh, that's cool.
overcome cause and effect as being two different things and realize just that it is what it is.
Yeah, I like
Kinda
that.
thing.
Got
Overcome
it.
that, accept
Yeah.
that.
I think I know why.
Enlightenment.
I started off saying, I have the answer, Mitch, I know this. Maybe because I think I finally came to terms with all my sufferings of recent. Maybe I finally said, I am going to let it go.
Yeah,
And maybe that's why I said, there's no one to blame.
that's cool.
That's the conclusion I came to when I believe
I
let
like
it
that a
go.
lot. You know, in the Buddha would say something like, there's this deep, again, you might not even be able to comprehend it with your mind, but it's just like life is suffering. That's his first tenet of the Eightfold Path. The Four Noble Truths. He says life is suffering, fact, and period, end of sentence. But if you can somehow be above that suffering that life is, because you are also life, are you not? Right? But somehow there's a way to be above it. And I think blame, yes, is a good way to continue that cycle. And to be above blame is to be above the suffering to a certain degree.
Yeah, it makes sense that accepting that everything is suffering must come first.
Yeah,
if you're
it's deep. It's tough
Yeah.
even to get there.
If you're going to not suffer, you should at least come from that starting point.
No deception.
Yeah, because I totally lost it.
Well, because
No.
otherwise it's all Newtonian, right? Cause and effect. The ball hits the ball and it moves. You could see it that way. Again, very Western mind. But much like the karma and dharma explanation, there's something deeper going on that they're missing when they say that.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
don't-
go ahead, Poach.
I think this is I don't think you're going to look for a cause unless you're suffering. You have to be
Yes.
suffering to explain. If you're not suffering, you don't need to find your cause.
Yeah.
The
You don't need
cause
to look
is the
for it.
blame.
Fucking teenagers, am I right?
Yeah, well, and your example,
In good shape and health all the time. Fuck you, Dad!
and your example of hitting the wall where people become atheists, you just get to that point. It's like, well, I didn't ask to be here, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
I didn't even have to
But
be
then,
born.
and if you're living in cause and effect as two different things, well, if you're not living in cause and effect, then you could just say, well, you do exist, so now what? Kind of thing. It's just like, well, yeah, you didn't ask for this,
Yeah.
but that's this.
Deeply related with time, too, all this. But I say we hit the final Hermetic Principle. The seventh and final Hermetic Principle. Gender. What does it say there, Polish?
All things have feminine and masculine elements.
Isn't that funny that it kind of ends with gender too? There's like this start, this split, this vibration of the splitting, the poles of the splitting, the rhythm that it appears in, cause and effect. Almost makes it worldly. Like in my mind, it creates like this worldly atmosphere, and then gender is the result of it all. Because you could say that's kind of polar, but they didn't say it was polar. They said it was gender. All things have masculine and feminine. What do you guys think?
You're going from the top down or the bottom up?
Whoa. As
Because-
above, so below, Poge.
Because I
Right?
see this could start with gender
Oh, okay.
and build up to a mind. That, you have to have masculine, feminine energies. This will set up a cause and effect. It will start a rhythm. The poles will start moving and
Do you read
vibrating.
them?
The correspondence comes in and
Oh my God, the correspondence hits you.
a new baby is born.
Hell yeah.
I think it follows the same format as the Four
Oh,
Noble
that is cool.
Truths.
I like that, like make a new life in that
Exactly,
sense.
that's what I was
But that's
trying
what
to
it
go
is. Sorry,
for,
Evan,
yeah.
hold that thought, because that's what it is. You could come from God and go to humans, or humans creating God, humans doing the godly act of procreation, life being made. That's interesting.
I was thinking of it starting with gender at the foundation this whole time.
Tight.
But that's cool that you think of the God down.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I was thinking the format of the top down, I feel like relates to the Four Noble Truths. You have to accept the mentality first. Mentality is the cause, is the blame, is
Oh, yes.
the suffering kind of thing.
Yeah, that's how I tend to see it too. Yeah.
So I think gender is a good end to that because it puts it in a worldly perspective.
I tend to feel
Yeah.
that very strongly, like almost like as to say that gender is the result. Oh, here we are. We're in life. And like, what's your strongest urge? To not die, so you eat food and you want to fuck for some reason. You want to fuck to have kids, supposedly. And it just like it's the world that you find yourself in, like Job. I'm here. Here's gender, and it's the biggest, as we know. And as we know from ancient wisdom, one of our biggest tenets on this show is that gender relations. Am I right? It's the one thing that can save the world, but it's the one thing that's butting the heads most right now, and perhaps
Wow.
always has.
We didn't even get the seventh Hermetic principle. We need that first, like Poj said, to go from the bottom up to meet that point of as above, so below.
Whoa, that's
we're
cool.
stuck below gender.
So you guys are saying we're not even at
We're
step
at the
1
eighth,
yet.
Yeah,
We're blocked. We're blocked
Wow!
at that
Oh my God!
chakra.
The chakras. That
7th
feels very
chakra,
real.
not-
looking
not
around me
flowing
though.
with energy.
because there's not duality in the genders right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's confused as to what their role is.
Oh, that's cool.
There's millions of genders supposedly.
Man.
Not two.
Yeah, that's super deep. Do you guys also see that there are feminine and masculine in all things? Because I've struggled with that one in the past, right? I thought a man was a man and a woman is a woman. Is that true?
It definitely made me think of my idea earlier where the mind is trying to penetrate the one reality, and the one reality is trying to close back the duality that the mind is trying to split into two.
Yeah, certainly.
And I feel like that's very gender related too. It's like the man is trying to force its will upon the feminine
That's
in the
right.
world, and the feminine is trying to tame and control and bring back to oneness kind of thing and
Man.
receive.
And much like mentalism or really as above, so below, I think what as above, so below is to me after all this is like the visualizing of everything. Like it could be as simple as the woman closing and opening her legs. Is she receptive? Is she too receptive? Is she a slut? You know, is she receptive to just enough influence? You know? And the man is always trying to penetrate. He's trying to penetrate everything, rip it open.
Whoa.
That's like his goal, his purpose is to break through, to be worldly, right? The man provides. Why does he provide? Because he knows we need food and water. I need to rip open reality and split into two things so I could have priorities. I could prioritize a list,
Wow.
and that's why men are more
Wow.
detail oriented.
It's all just a checklist. So it's like, all right, water, food, shelter.
We got
all right.
it. We got it.
Individual
and
things.
the woman is so spacey. She's in her head. Peace, man. That's why they all want to do new age spirituality and crystals and shit. Come on, baby.
But the guys are like, you haven't drinking water for 10 days.
Yeah, seriously. Drink some fucking water, bitch.
Male is the push and female is the pull.
Right. And I like Evan's perspective. Yeah, the closing and the opening kind of at odds with life and death, really. And then Christians sort of, I think, take it to perhaps maybe an unhealthy realm of like good and evil. I don't know. But again, these are just words. These are poems that we use for as above, so below. We could say that, and it definitely means a thing, but you might end up doing more harm than good by giving it such a harsh poetic label without seeing the true deeper nature of what it is you're talking about. Because it does exist. But like karma, like dharma, like all these things, I think you put too much thought into the Western nature and you're not even aware of how you actually think. You haven't done enough self-discovery. So you guys do think that there's gendered things in everything. Does this microphone have two genders?
It's not the first.
Does the
first
rock
one.
have two genders?
I'm not the first one to say it, but I think it was Walter Russell who did say that there is a feminine and masculine energy in all things, and it could be a little.
Well, it was the Hermetic Principles that said it first.
You got me. You got me. Hermes got me.
So far on record.
Yes. And I think I brought up his artwork last time, but there's
yes.
and I don't know. I have trouble with it because inanimate objects. You know, it's very. There's a religion where they believe in spirits live in every object. I can't remember the name right now, but he said that yes, every physical object. I don't know how to put into cameras, but let's try. Microphone receives. Camera receives. Speaker projects. Subwoofer projects. Would you say that the speaker is male and female? You know, we get very philosophical there. I think it's a better application in people. But you can do it for objects. Language does it for objects.
Input, output, another audio term. You need one to have the other kind of thing.
Right,
And
to give it a use.
Right.
To even have it be useful at
Or
all.
to do something.
two more points in time, two actions, another relationship. And I think all the Hermetic Principles really talked about gender in some way.
It's almost like saying gender is something that is in the world, but ideally they would work together. There would be a camera
Oneness.
with both an input and an output to even be functional. Is that not deep? We are not functional now as a species.
Can't send the signal.
We can't even send the signal. There's no purpose, you know. And we even as above, so below. We see it in what they say on these shallow YouTube videos. I don't even need a man. What's even the use of a man? They could all die now. I'd rather be with a bear in the woods. And then, you know, the men go their own way. Oh, bitches are all sluts or whatever. And it's just like, ideally, and there are some out there, of course, but the internet has not been good for us as a whole.
Yeah.
But
and then we get stuck at point number 7, and we cannot proceed.
We
up
cannot
nor down.
proceed.
We're not even at 7.
And really, gender is like all of these things, I think. All
Right.
things are dual, but all opposites are reconciled.
Right. Yeah, gender seems like the first step. It seems like a step from the
Man.
physical world.
That's a deep one. So, guys, I mean, we have to figure out gender if we're going to even have a hope at the rest of these Hermetic principles. So, until then, I think we got to the bottom of it. Now on to Mitch translates the Tao. Always puts you in a good mood, am I right?
So Japanese.
Oh, we had a deep discussion today, so I think we're going to hit perhaps the shortest Tao of all. Tao 40, as translated by me. Returning is how the Tao moves. Gentleness is how the Tao is used. Under heaven, the 10,000 things are born into existence, but existence is born of non-existence. I wasn't joking about the shortness, am I right?
It is the quickest one.
Shortest one we have ever done.
Last week was so long.
Period.
I was
Yeah.
it's too much wisdom
It's actually
in
like a mind. There's too much wisdom for me to handle. Very simple, very simple. Returning, how the Tao moves. Gentleness is how the Tao is used. So let me really hit you with what he's saying here, because returning is also this word, Japanese word hantai, which is like opposite. It's the opposite. It returns. It goes back.
It seems to imply that we have a source. But I feel like the average person would think, what do you return to? What does that even
Yeah.
mean? How do you return to anything?
Right. And like if we take our Hermetic principles and talk about points not existing, like does the beginning exist? But you know what's interesting about this is that it's not saying that there's a home. It's just saying the process of returning, like the whirlpool.
Oh, I
the
think I see.
returning is occurring, right?
The Tao only acts towards a goal.
Towards is a great word.
Towards-
Yeah.
The Tao acts towards
That's
its
super cool.
points, its purpose.
Right.
It doesn't run away from you. The Tao will always come to you.
Oh, that's super cool way of looking at it too. This is poetry. I like that poetry.
Don't even worry about the Tao escaping.
Ah, yeah, it's coming back, baby.
And that's why I think the next line starts with
Love
gentleness.
it, let it go.
Because the Tao is already working on behalf of everything, as Poe's just said. It's working towards something, and you don't allow it to do that if you don't have gentleness. If you're imposing your will on it and forcefully moving forward, you're not returning to it, and the Tao isn't working you towards anything.
Returning is how the Tao moves. Gentleness is how the Tao is used. So it's funny, in the nature of returning, it is this gentleness. The only way it could be used, if you could use that word, is through gentleness. Now, this is funny too, because the character for gentleness could also be translated as weak. I don't know if that changes much in your mind too, but same thing with the Chinese and Japanese, very simple, like weak. And within the word for weak is like feather, very light.
Because I was going to say another synonym could also be like effortlessness.
I could see that.
Like if you don't put in effort, you have no force of will, you have no strength. So maybe that means
Also, that's cool,
weakness.
and that kind of combines what Poj was saying too, because the gentleness, you don't even have to try; it'll come back to you.
Like
How
a
is
feather.
it used? If you will use it, it will return, cool as a feather,
And I'm feeling
gentle
that
as a feather floating
You
down.
shouldn't be worried about it, right? You shouldn't be worried about figuring out
Yes.
or receiving this Tao, because it will be gentle.
Yeah.
So it will only come towards you, and while it's coming, chill.
Yeah, it's never in a panic. It can't be
Yeah.
used in stress.
Right.
The calmness will come to you. The cyclone will come to you.
And maybe you're afraid of the Tao because you're afraid of realizing something scary.
Yeah.
But
We tend to believe that. Do you
Yeah.
guys think that's like a Western I think that kind of is the Western
I
mentality
don't wanna know.
too.
I don't wanna know. Don't
yeah.
tell me. Yeah.
I don't even want to know. It's
Yeah.
scary. All this stuff is too deep because it's still a thought. In fact, it's the strongest thought of all, which creates these panic attacks or these storms of emotion when they clash.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with free will. It's like, how am I going to get anywhere if I don't work towards it? What does that
Yeah.
even mean? It work on me. It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Where is it? So what do you guys think about this? Under heaven, the 10,000 things are born into existence. Okay, that sounds good so far.
the universe.
But existence is born from non-existence.
Oh, I'll take it back.
And the first part was everything under heaven. What was that again?
Basically, everything is born into existence, but existence is born of non-existence. And how does that relate to the first part?
I think you might have been with Lao Tzu when he, because that's your concept another way about nothingness can't exist.
Oh,
It's
sick.
too unstable.
Wow. I was there. I was his scribe.
Everything comes out of nothingness,
Yeah.
of non-existence.
Oh,
Wait
There's
a
no
minute,
other. There's no other way.
Yeah. The 10,000 things, the tangible. I think that's what he's saying. That's so cool. The reality, the physical nature is the 10,000 things under heaven, the real, but existence born from non-existence, as above, so below, the separation. Oh, that's hot.
Existence here is the self. It's not the universe. That's what I'm taking back. The 10,000 things is the universe, the tangible.
Right,
But
yes.
existence being born of non-existence. Existence is not saying, oh, all the rocks and trees and the earth is going to be just coming out of heaven. No, it's saying your consciousness is born from the nothingness.
Oh, that's cool.
To feel the
that's
universe.
deep. I like that a lot. That's really cool. Your experience of it comes from God,
It's separating the two in this Tao.
separating the two.
Because I always thought the 10,000 was the universe.
Man,
Was
and perhaps
yourself.
that is the returning, and the returning in gentleness is not causing the waves of separation. Wow. I think we got to the bottom of it. Guys, this has been episode number 58, if you could believe it. Thanks for joining us. Catch us next time on Ancient Wisdom.